Hari Om everybody. Last time we saw the Dharma Chakra, the Karma Chakra, which majority of us are following. That's okay. We need that. But that Karma Chakra needs to be converted into a Dharma Chakra by converting karma into Karma Yoga. That's why Bhagavan has qualified karma, karma coming from the Vedas and Vedas coming from the imperishable. So the Dharma Chakra, Bhagavan says, if it is not followed, then the person is only reveling in his senses, and he's only doing it for his own pleasures. The point of the Dharma Chakra, I told you, there are two aspects to it. There is external material prosperity, but along with it, there also should be an attempt to purify the mind. And the reason for the purification is because we do need spiritual emancipation, which gives strength to handle the prosperity outside. So that is one aspect. One more thing that we have to understand is, if somebody says, oh, my mind is pure enough, I don't need to work. Okay. So let me give you an example. This Mahatma went to the Himalayas and he meditated for a number of years. And when he came back, he said, I have conquered anger. So he was in a crowd and one person came and slapped him across the face. And immediately he got angry. The point is, how will you test the purity of your own mind? See, somebody is living alone, and then they say, oh, I never get angry, I've conquered. Yeah, but there is nobody else to, what do they say, press the wrong buttons for you. So purity of mind, you will only know when you're outside doing karma. So when you are interacting with the world, when you're interacting with your co-workers, with your bosses, with your friends, with your acquaintances, with your neighbors, whatever the relationship, at that time, the trigger points have to be watched. Then you will know, do I suddenly hate this person? Do I, get carried away by that object? All these things you will know when you are out in the world. And therefore also karma becomes essential. One aspect of karma is that nobody can live without doing karma. So that is one aspect. But the second aspect is to test yourself. That is the test. You go out, you work, you interact with people, and then you see how your mind is reacting. And when that mind remains calm in every interaction, at that time you will know to that extent the mind has purified. And purification is extremely essential in spiritual knowledge. Okay, so then the question arises, is there any exception? Bhagavan says, yes, there is an exception. One who is not dependent on people for his happiness, one who is not dependent on objects, and one who is not dependent on thoughts for his happiness, he need not work, because whether people are there or not, it doesn't matter. Objects are there or not, it doesn't matter. Thoughts coming, going, they don't disturb him. Then he need not work for anything. That this is the description of a realized master. Okay, so if we can be that way, atma rati, atma trupta, atma santushta, then you are an exception and you need not work. The three modifications of the mind we saw, which give us happiness: priya, moda, and pramoda. Priya only by thought, moda by just meeting and then actually experiencing, that is pramoda. These are modifications of the mind. If you can rise above the modifications and remain happy in spite of the modifications, that is what ananda is, bliss. That Satchit Ananda, that ananda is not these three. The ananda that Brahman is described as Satchit Ananda, bliss, is not priya, moda, or pramoda, because these three are modifications of the mind. So the mind is shaking there in a good way, but nevertheless it is. If the mind absolutely stops shaking, so no matter what happens, mind is calm, that is the experience of ananda. So if you can transcend these modifications, then there is no need for you to work, because you will always be happy. And the 18, that's, he concludes, for him there is no interest in what is done or what is not done, because it really doesn't matter to him. That's why when it matters to us, then definitely work has to be done. And then he concludes, Tasmat asakta satatam karyam karma samachara. Therefore, remaining detached, remaining asakta, remaining detached, satatam, constantly do work in a very, very, to the best of your ability. Sama achara. Not just doing it for the sake of doing it. I'm doing it for somebody else who really cares how I do it. Not with that attitude, but to the best of your ability. Uh, Detachment to action, detachment to doership, detachment to result. Param apnoti purusha. So param, we saw, one meaning of param is that supreme happiness, ananda, which you will get through the purification of the mind. Huh? Please remember that even though you do karma in a very detached manner, that karma is not going to give you moksha, but it will give you enough purity that the knowledge will very easily arise in your mind. Saraswati, they say, in a pure mind, she reveals herself. Upanishad says that Saraswati will herself, she will give you the knowledge, Ma Saraswati. But the mind has to be that pure. So that is what this karma yoga will give you. And then leave the rest to Saraswati ji. She will do the rest. And the other aspect is, if that action gives you happiness, so you feel happy doing it, so that also is an aspect of bliss. So param, at one level, you'll feel happy, right? And all of us are looking for that only. Ultimately, every one of us is looking for happiness. So karma yoga, doing karma in a detached manner, if it makes you feel happy, still at our level, it is param only, supreme, happy. And at a higher level, it will give you the knowledge. So this is what Bhagwan has said, and I think that's where we were. Okay. So, and I told you, purity, and again, in the result, when you do the action and when the result comes, one is interaction with, but when the result comes, what is the condition of your own mind will tell you how purified the mind is. So when the result comes and you get really, really upset, angry, if it is not as per your this thing, then you know, oh, I wasn't as detached. See, it is very easy to say I'm detached doing karma, I'm detached doing karma. The test of detachment is when you're asked to leave that karma. When you're asked to leave the post, when you're asked to retire, when you're asked to step down from, I told you, but I myself stepped down from the council. So the idea, it should be like the autumn leaf where you only should be giving. The Gurudev has said this, kick the world before the world kicks you. This is Gurudev's words. So you give up. If you yourself give up, then you're not going to be unhappy about it because you have decided to give it up, the position, whatever it is. Okay, so that's how you'll know that is a test of purity. So it's very easy to say I'm not attached to this work, I'm not attached. How do you know how you will feel when you're asked to not do that work again? Right? That's what it is. Okay. Now he gave the example of Janaka. Here is where we were in this verse. And I told you Janaka is to be interpreted as either Sita ji's father or the lineage of the kings, the Janaka, that whole family, every king was called as Janaka. And Bhagwan has given the example of Janaka because he was a householder. Arjun is a householder. We are also householders. So Bhagwan is saying that this Samsiddhi, Astita, Janaka, etc. People like Janaka have attained moksha through being a householder. He was a Kshatriya. He was a Kshatriya king. He was a householder. And through that means telling Arjun, you can do it, but via karma. Huh? Via karma. So by doing karma yoga, there are people like Janaka who have attained moksha. You also do the same thing. Now, here, there are two ways in which Arjun can interpret this. So Bhagwan is saying, okay, Arjun, if you think that Janaka, because Loka Sangraham evapi sampashan kartumarhasi. The second line, Loka Sangraha word is there. Loka Sangraha means for the good, common good of the people. Loka people, Sangraha, common good. So for the common good, so look at Janaka. If you consider him to be a realized master, suppose you think I'm saying he is, if you think he's realized, look at him. Yet he continued his work as a king. He never left the kingdom and went away in the forest. Okay, so that is one aspect. Suppose if you think he's not realized, then also look at his work. He does the work. So what Bhagwan is telling Arjun, if you think that you are realized, see, it's the whole chapter started with the question why I should do karma. That is the basis of this chapter, is why should I do karma? So Bhagwan says, I gave you the exception. If you're Atmarati, if you're Atmatrupti, if you're Atma Santushti, you don't have to do karma. So suppose Arjun might say, but Bhagwan, I am Atmarati, I am Atmatrushti. So how like I am that. So why should I do karma? Then what Bhagwan is saying, look at Janaka. Even though he was realized, he did it for Loka Sangra, for the good of the people. So he says, even if you think you're realized, even if you say, how do anybody else knows what? Maybe I am realized. Everybody thinks. So if you think you're realized, then also you work for dharma, because you're standing on the side of dharma. Because what Arjun was trying to do was leave the war. So he says, if you think you're realized, look at Janaka. Did he not continue to work? You also continue to do your own work, which is fighting the war. And if you're not realized, then definitely you have to do it for the good of the people. You have to do it as karma yoga, so you will get realization. So both by giving the example of Janaka, he's telling Arjun both these options. If you think you're realized, fine, you have to work for the common good. If you're not realized, you definitely have to work. Okay, that's what we see, like that's why I've told you, scriptures give liberty to the realized masters. Okay, that's why we see all kinds of realized. There are realized masters who have just left and gone and stayed in the caves in the Himalayas. My trek through Uttarakhand, Gurudev describes all. There are many Mahatmas that he met who were not concerned with the world at all, and scriptures give them that liberty. And then there are others like Gurudev, Swami Vivekananda did a lot of work. Okay, but that work never bound them. So no matter how much work they put in, it didn't matter. The doership and enjoyership was not there. So that's what Arjun is being given a choice. So it doesn't mean that a realized master should not work at all, should go away from work. No, you do. That's what he's telling him. Now the next verse, 21. This is also an important verse. Yadyada charati shreshtaha tat devataro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastadanu vartate. Whatever a great man does, that other men also do, imitate. Whatever he sets up as the standard, that the world people follow. Whatever a great man does, Shreshta Purusha here, what is the definition of great? That is to be understood here. So here Shreshta, translated as great, means one who has the knowledge and also follows it. Both has to be there. That is and people think, you know what, no, I am just a nobody. I am not a Shreshta person. No, each one of us is Shreshta for somebody or the other in our life. So especially parents, they are Shreshta for the children. So that's why Shreshta Purusha is not the one who has a cigarette in his fingers and says, son, it's bad to smoke, don't smoke. That is not a Shreshta Purusha. So a Shreshta Purusha, this is what is to be understood here, that who is a great person? He doesn't have to have great knowledge. He doesn't have to have knowledge of scriptures or anything. But whatever he believes in, suppose he believes in honesty, and then he is a very honest person. I think Guruji had told us this joke, you know, the son picked up the phone and the father said, I'm not, you know, I'm not here because they're asking for daddy. And then now he's been asked to lie. So you have to understand that each one of us is Shreshta for somebody or the other at some time in their life. A small baby, you know, then even grandmother is Shreshta then, because that baby doesn't know, you're imitating her. And humans are very expert at imitating. apes. We are like apes. We imitate film stars. We imitate, fashion and designer clothes and whatever, what have you, leaders, political leaders, whatever. So the Shresht, what Bhagwan is saying here is acharati, achara, behavior. Whatever a great person does, people seem to imitate him. This is the reason that Bhagwan had picked Arjun for this knowledge. See, Arjun was a Shresht Purusha of that time. He was valorous, he was brave, he was kind, he was handsome, it is said. He was, his war prowess, he was expert. So, and then he became expert at music and dance and also in his exile thing. So what Bhagwan thought, if you understand this knowledge, if Arjun understands and follows, so understanding and following both going together, then people they were already imitating Arjun. I'm sure there were a lot of people who were. So if he now follows this knowledge, other people will imitate. And that's why Bhagwan has picked Arjun here for this knowledge. This is being only told to Arjun. Remember that. So, sayat pramanam kurute lokas tadanu vartante. So people will follow this Shrestha Purusha. So you must do karma yoga. So people will follow you. People are already following you. Now, if you do karma is karma yoga, then people will say, oh, Arjun is doing it. They don't need to read this. They'll say whatever. Because we are expert. And another thing about imitation is, imitation, they say, is the greatest form of adoration. When you adore, of course, even in bad, children see parents smoking, they tend to smoke, or, that also is there, imitation. But generally, if I adore somebody, then I would like to be like that person. So imitation is a form of adoration. And if that Purusha is really Shrestha, Purusha includes three also. So if that person is Shrestha, having the knowledge and doing it as well. In most common, I see, everybody knows losing weight is good, not eating. So how many of us do it? Everybody knows you should go for a walk every day or some sort of exercise. So knowledge is there, whether it is being followed. And when it is being followed, then people will imitate you. So this is what Bhagwan is telling Arjun here. Pretty straightforward, but this is, and now he gives his own example. So here he said, whatever a Shrestha Purusha does, people follow. So the idea is, you be a Shrestha Purusha, you understand this knowledge of Karma Yoga, you do Karma Yoga, and then people will follow you. Okay, this is what it is. Now he says, he gives his own example. Name parthasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nana vyaptama vaptyavyam varta eva cha karmani. There is nothing in the three worlds, O Partha, that has to be done by me, nor is there anything unattained that should be attained by me, yet I engage myself in action. The next two verses are similar, but their standpoints are very different. So we have to understand the standpoint. Here when he says, I do not have any duty in Trishu Lokeshu, heaven, earth and hell. Three worlds. Generally, there are these seven and all, but these are just. When he says, I do not have any duty in the three worlds, he's only talking of his avatar on the earth. So he's actually talking of his own physical form here. That needs to be understood. That from the time of my birth till today, because it's till the time of the war, he says, look at my life. Look at my life. And if we look at Bhagwan's life, he was born in the jail. Then he cut all the chains of the guards. Then he went on his father's head to across the river, which was in like spate, it was flooding. Then Putana came along. Then Shaktasur came along. Then Kaliya Mardana. Like if you look at Krishna's life, there is just action after action, right from baby. He was in the cradle when Putana came along and he started functioning. This is what he's referring to here in this verse. He says, look at me. So you can imitate me in spite of the fact that I have absolutely no duty. You to have duty. You have duty. You have duty of finding war. I am not even that duty. But I have taken birth, and now that I have taken birth, action is inevitable. And look at me. And not only that, he killed the demons, he also worked on the ego of the devatas. So Govardhan Parvat episode we have, Brahmaji took all the gopis and gopas away. Then that he taught Brahmaji also a lesson. So the purpose of his avatar was twofold. One is to destroy the evil demons, but also to destroy the ego of the devatas. They were becoming very egotistical. So that was their fault too. So he saved them also actually. It wasn't his purpose to show that, you know what, don't forget, I am superior. No, no, no. But when he sees his ministers falling, these devatas are all his ministers. So when he sees his ministers falling, when they think that, you know, I can control the rain, Indra thinks I can control the rain, then Bhagwan has to show him that, no, 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 no. I've assigned you that, I've given you that power, don't abuse it. Don't expect that everybody should be doing yajna to you and then only you will give rain, you won't give rain. That's why. So that's why he says, even though I have nothing to achieve, this kritakritya word we have heard. He says, there's nothing for me to do, there is nothing for me to achieve. And yet I'm working. You have a duty. You have to kill Adharma. You have to kill Duryodhan. You have to destroy the Kauravas because they are standing on the side of Adharma. So you to have a lot of work to do. Look at me, he says. So that's why in the previous verse he says, people imitate. Na? So people are imitating. Now you imitate me. A very low level. Okay, you don't want to know the knowledge. You don't want moksha. That's okay. Just imitate me at least. This is what Bhagwan is telling him. Partha we have seen, son of Pratha. Pratha is the name of Kunti because she was the daughter of King Prithu. So her name became Pratha. And Partha, I told you, Partha refers to all the Pandavas. But here it is Arjun only because he was. So Partha also means a muddy-headed fool. There are 2-3 meanings. Partha, Parmeshwara, Artha. So one who wants to know the truth. That also is a meaning of Partha. Here you can take it as, if you want to know the truth, you have to continue to work to purify as per dharma. Okay. Now in the next one, again, he's giving the same idea, but from a different standpoint. Yadi hyayam na varteyam jatu karmanya tandritaha mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashaha. For should I not ever engage in action, without relaxation, men would in every way follow my path, O son of Pratha. Now he says here, so he says, because people are imitating, the next verse is more important, but here he says, if I don't act in this is still going on in his avatar, then people will say, okay, he is also not acting, why should I act? See, if Arjun would have left the war, he was the leader, you think everybody else would have stayed there and fought the war, fight? They won't have. They would have run away too, because they're looking at him, he's the leader, he's only going away, now everybody else will go away too. So this is what Bhagwan is saying, that if I become lazy, if I don't act, people are going to imitate me and people are going to do the same thing. So forget the dharma chakra, even the karma chakra is not going to go on. How this world will continue? It will not. So that's why he says, you must follow me, and then people will follow you. This is what he's telling him. Men would in every way follow my path. So this is the same idea that is going on of the Shrestha Purusha. Now he says, next verse, Utsideyurime lokaha na kuryam karma chedaham sankarasya cha kartasyam upabhanyami ma prajaha. These worlds would perish if I did not perform action. I should be the author of confusion of castes and should destroy these beings. Sankara word we heard in chapter 1, where Arjun says there'll be Varna Sankara, if you remember. Arjun says, if I fight this war and I win and I kill all these men, there'll be Varna Sankara. And what is Varna Sankara? Admixture of castes. And what did that mean? Is all these only widows and children will remain after the war. and then they will not have any source of income, and they will go into wrong paths. This is what Arjun had said in the first chapter. Now Bhagwan is saying here also that if I don't work, so when he says I don't work, here it is from the standpoint of Ishvara, not from his avatar. The earlier verse was, look at me since I was born till today. Look at me physically and how much work I've done. Now he's saying, as Ishvara, if I don't work, so what is actually Ishvara doing? That is what we have to understand. Okay, now it is not the form of Krishna, it is Ishvara. So Ishvara is the one we saw, Evam Pravartitam Chakra. He said in the same chapter, if you were to give that reference, that I created this karma chakra. Brahmaji created, of course, Brahmaji with the help of pure consciousness. So Brahmaji created this karma chakra by creating the 4 varnas. Remember I told you, there are these Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudra. They each have their own functioning. And when they function as per their own duty, then this karma chakra continues. But for them to function, there also has to be a field of action. If I have to make something, I need a range, I need the ingredients to cook everything, right? So what here Bhagwan is saying, that as Ishvara, I created the 4 varnas, those tendencies of people, not by birth, but their own mental inclinations. So the one who is more maximum sattva followed by rajas is a Brahmin. Maximum rajas followed by sattva is a kshatriya. Maximum rajas followed by tamas is a vaishya. And maximum tamas followed by rajas is a shudra. This is how this classification is. It is not by birth. Just because I'm born in a Brahmin family doesn't make me a Brahmin. Therefore, Gurudeva said that at birth, every child is a Shudra only. He doesn't know what to do. Then as he grows, his own tendencies keep developing, and then he will fall in one of these 4 categories. Now, these mental makeups are there, these mental inclinations are there, but there is no field of action. Now, how that vasanas will get fulfilled? So he says, internally, I have created the mental makeup. Externally, I have only created the field of action. And if I don't do this, if I withdraw the field of everything is in my control. If I withdraw the field of action, then the mental, what is the use of all those people? How will they exhaust their vasanas? If I keep the thing and no people, then what is the point of that inert world? So by putting both these in place, because as Ishvara, I only have created the people with their different mental makeups. I only have created the field of action. I have given them the field of action. All you have to do, I have done it all. Arjun, all you have to do is just fulfill your vasanas. So simple, I've made it for you. I've given you the war, a dharmic war. You're standing on the side of dharma, you do this. If I withdraw any one of this, the world will not survive. So that is one aspect of it. The other aspect of it, which comes in chapter 15, and we have seen, he says, I am the brilliance in the sun. I am the coolness in the moon. I am the gravitational pull in the earth. I am the one that has given, controls your memory and your forgetfulness. So now imagine if he pulls the brilliance from the sun, can we survive without sunlight? If he put the moon, I told you, the moon rays are supposed to be, the seeds are supposed to be exposed to the moon rays, so they become more nutritious. Now, if the moon rays are withdrawn, Ishvara, he said, I am controlling everything. There is no gravitational pull on the earth. Can we even function on this earth then? So he is controlling all that. So that's what he means here, that if I stop working, so no gravity, no brilliance, I withdraw the brilliance from the sun. Air is, Taittiriya Upanishad says that in fear of God, all these phenomenal forces are working. The sun, imagine even if the sun says, every Sunday you guys sleep in late, why should I get up? Then what will happen? If the air says, you know what, I'm tired now. I don't want to be moving anymore. I'm going to remain still. And Taittiriya Upanishad says that Bhishma, out of fear, Vayu runs. Out of fear, sun gets, sun is shining, moon is. So if that fear is, if Bhagwan removes his powers from them, how will we survive? This is what Bhagwan means here. And when people, then there will be admixture of caste, because people will do whatever that they want to do. There's no control anymore. This is, so two standpoints he has given. If you look at me as the physical form from my birth, look at me. Gross, it's a gross thing. Like, yeah, he's been doing so many actions throughout his Kansa, he did Kans, Chanur, and in other avatars also, Ravana, and all this thing he has done. Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, everybody got liberation. That's a different matter, but work he has done. And even if you just look at Krishna avatar, even they, as a charioteer, when he took on the job of charioteer, it is said that he actually, how when we take a job, then our job description is there. So the charioteer's job description, he followed to a T, it is said. So he was there before Arjun came. He would be opening the door of the chariot for, because he's a charioteer, that is chauffeur. If you have if a rich person has a chauffeur, then the chauffeur is there before that master, and then he opens the door of the car for him. And after the war, every day, then first he will tend to the horses. Bhagwan, you think Yudhishthir had other servants? Okay, you guys, now I drove the chariot, now you take care of the horses. Bhagwan never said that. He said, no, I'm charioteer, so I have to take the wounds of the horses, feed them. Then it seems he would bathe them, feed them, tend to their wounds, and then he would go take a shower, and then he would go eat. So he never ate before the horses ate, because he said they're in my care, right? So that is the type of example that he has given. And for us, Shrestha Purusha also, for like Gurudev, when we see Gurudev's discipline, his love, like Guruji also, the discipline that we see. So all that, this volume. So that's what Bhagwan here is saying. If you look at my life also, and as Ishvara also, if I stop working, this world cannot survive. And we must know that. And that's one of the reasons we must say thank you. Okay? All right? Okay. Next. Sakta karmanya vidmasaha yatha kurvanti bharata kuryad vidmas tatha saktaha chikirshu loka sangraham. As the ignorant men act from attachment to action, O Bharata, so should the wise act without attachment, wishing the welfare of the world. Bharata, one who revels in light. Another name of Arjun, we have seen this also. Bharata, Rata to light, Rata to revel, and Bha is light or knowledge. So what Bhagwan is saying here, see those who are karmis. That's why I told you that distinction, karmi and a karma yogi. So those who are karmis. So when he says ignorant men here, it doesn't mean ignorance in knowledge. It could be highly educated person. So what is meant here? Ignorant of the fact that there is something known as karma yoga. That is the ignorance that Bhagwan is talking here. Not about education, uneducated, illiterate, not those type of people. So ignorance here is indicating ignorance of karma yoga. Now, how this karmi is acting, he is acting with great attachment to the action, great attachment to the desire that he has for the result, and great attachment to the result itself. Like with so much vigor, so much passion, people act, right? If they want a promotion, they want to get ahead in life, they want something. So those who are not karma yogis, those who do not know what karma or do not believe, or majority of us are not aware of this scriptural knowledge and scriptural emancipation, etc., etc. So how they work, how much passionately they work with the same passion, you must detach. This is what Bhagwan is telling him. That karmani avidvasaha yatha kurvanti. Avidvasaha, avidvan, not in education like formal education, but avidvan is one who is not wise not intellectually, but not knowing karma yoga, not knowing the scriptures, not having been exposed to this knowledge. That is what is meant by a vidwan here. Okay, a vidwan doesn't mean a foolish or a stupid person. It could be extremely intelligent. They are of course extremely intelligent. So tatha, that way, as he acts with attachment, a vidwan, here vidwan again, this vidwan could be illiterate. We see all the bhaktas, they were very illiterate. They didn't know how to read, write, nothing. Okay, but they acted with detachment. So this is what Bhagavan is saying. Like they will do with attachment, you do without attachment. Passion should be the same. That's why I told you, karma yoga, when we say that I'm doing it for the sake of the Lord, or when I'm doing it for a higher altar, that it shouldn't make us less passionate in the work. It has to be done with, therefore samachara he has used the word, that it should be done with the greatest of care, to the best of our ability. Karma yoga doesn't mean doing action in any which way. That needs to be remembered very well. This is what he's telling here, that this should be followed. Okay, this karma yoga will reduce identification to the gross body. Bhakti yoga, if you're following here, of course it's only karma, I'm just telling you this as a footnote. Bhakti yoga will reduce identification with the subtle body. Okay, what is the subtle body? Is mind, intellect, right? So in bhakti yoga, what is happening is, because you're constantly thinking of your ishta devata, that identification with the subtle body will reduce. And with jnana yoga, identification with causal body, because causal body is ignorance. So with jnana, you're removing ignorance. So identification with the causal body, these three bodies that we have, gross, subtle, and causal, the whole idea is to disidentify from these three, because above these three, if you see our chart, Om is above the three. And these are the paths. Now here, we are dealing only with karma yoga. Okay? All right. Next. Na buddhi bhedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarva karmani vidman yukta samacharan. Let no wise man unsettle the mind of the ignorant people who are attached to action. He should engage them in all actions, himself fulfilling them with devotion. So here what Bhagavan is saying is, the one who is a karmi, because he's attached to action, do not disturb his faith. Means what? Keep on showing him the carrot. This is a technique of bringing the person from tamas into rajas and then into sattva. Always the ladder is like that. See, a tamasic person is not acting at all. Okay, so what you have to do, what the wise or the Shrestha Purusha, show carrot. You know, if you work hard, you will get a promotion, you will get a bonus, something you will get. So there are two words. There is one is motivation and one is inspiration. Motivation is external. So there is like in common terms, they say there is a carrot there, you know, there's a promotion, there is a bonus, there is, I don't know, anything external. Inspiration is from within. So a person who is not acting at all, he should be motivated, because you suddenly cannot inspire him. Suddenly, how that inspiration will come from inside? So there has to be a motivation, and that the wise man should give. That's why, you know, in one of the classes they said, we say thank you, and we are because we are working on our own ego to reduce our ego, but then we say thank you to the sponsors and all that. So we are feeding their ego. We must, because they're at this level, they need a motivation. Okay, and that should be given, because it is better to do than not do. So it is better to do with motivation than not do at all. So that's what Bhagavan is saying here. So do not unsettle the mind. of the person who is attached to action, okay, it's because being attached to action is much, much better, much superior than not being attached to any action at all. Of course, better than doing action with attachment, better than that is to do action with detachment. But a person who is not working at all, suddenly you tell him don't be attached and do work, he'll say, why should I do work then? So let him be attached. Don't disturb his mind. Give him a motivation, give him power, position, bonus, whatever that you can offer, give it to him, let him work, do not unsettle. Then what happens is, if the person is, doing it, maybe after a few years, he will start thinking, I have worked so hard, but I still don't feel fulfilled. He might. Some people think, some people don't think. They don't get fulfilled at all, so that's his destiny. But at this point, he said people who are attached to, he should engage them in all actions. So let them engage. Swami Ishwananji had told me, see, when they built they didn't build, they bought an old church. They had one ashram, then they bought an old church, but that church had to be renovated. Church had to be renovated. And Swamiji was thinking, somebody has to be in charge of this project, etc. He said, suddenly one man, he called him. And this man had never seen, Swami Ishwananji had not met him anywhere or did not know him, nothing. But suddenly he called and he said, you know what, Swamiji, I'm now retired from whatever. And he was in that, I suppose, in the construction. He said, I will head your project. I will take care of that. And Swamiji was surprised and he said, see, this is how Gurudev works. So he said he doesn't attend a single lecture, no Zoom. This was pre-COVID, of course, their new ashram. So he never came for my lectures. He never, because I think Swamiji, yes, that's how it came. Swamiji was here and this person was phoning Swamiji. That time the ashram was being renovated, the new one, the Rameshwaram that is called. So this guy was phoning. Then Swamiji told me, do you know this guy? He doesn't attend a single lecture. He does nothing to do with scriptures, nothing to do with Gita. But he said he's so good on top of that project that I have got nothing to worry. And he keeps reporting to me directly what work is being done, what needs to be done, how it is, everything he's managing. And he said, but nothing, no, if I tell him to attend my lecture, he will say, no, Swamiji. So these are the people that this verse is referring to. So Swamiji says, that's fine. That's fine. He's in charge. He says, taken load off of my head. So I can go concentrate on my, traveling. That time he was traveling and all that. That's what happened. He was here and then this guy used to call him every day and report to him, this happened today, that happened, that happened. And he said he was not in the mission. He was never a part of the mission. He's not a member, nothing. But out of the blue, when this renovation project, was when we bought the building and we said we have to renovate it, this guy has now come up. And so I just, no, that's okay. That's okay. He doesn't have to. Another example that I remember is, I think Tripti knows, Poddar, Asha Poddar. Na? Asha is her name, right? Right? Correct? Am I right? Asha Poddar. Okay. So Asha Poddar is, she was very, very close to Gurudev and she has that video dham. She, and she herself told me, I was traveling with her from Pathankot to Siddhabari by car. And I was in the car with her, right? So she was telling me all these memories of Gurudev. And she said that she used to actually smoke. She's a very, in those days, she was unmarried and like blah, 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 right? She was like very, very modern for us and all that. Anyway, and people went to Gurudev and they complained, what she's smoking. And Gurudev said, leave her alone. Let her smoke. Leave her alone. Then she said, I never attended Gurudev's lectures. She was not in the front, but she said, where I used to be? I used to be in the back of the stage with my car, sitting in my car, ready to take Gurudev, because later on Gurudev's heart was not working. So doctor had said, don't know when he'll get a heart attack or when he'll need medical emergency. He said, all I did was wait behind the stage. If there was an emergency, immediately I was ready to take Gurudev to the hospital. And that's all she said I did. But now all the videos and all she's doing, right? So Tripti knows her, right? Tripti should know her, or you've heard of her at least. So this is how it is. And Gurudev said, leave her alone. And then, of course, people were there. They said, oh, she never attends your lectures. And then what is this? Gurudev said, leave her alone. Leave her alone. Let her there. Let her sit behind in the car. She used to sit in my car, ready to drive Gurudev to the hospital if anything were to happen to him, right? So the devotion was there. She's still working. Kamdar, not Poddar, Kamdar. Asha Kamdar.
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking of another Asha Ben, because she used to go to Sidbari a lot with my mom.
Yeah.
So I thought you were talking about her, but then, yeah.
No, Asha Kamdar.
Kamdar, yeah.
Asha Kamdar, yeah. So, it's nice to hear these type of stories. Yeah. Those who have been with Gurudev and
Gurudev. But then with Gurudev, there were people who didn't have to attend his classes or his lectures, but they were so devoted to him,
yes.
him himself, and they would just do anything what he asked them to do.
Yes.
It was just, I think, his aura was there.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. He never said, oh, you should attend my classes. And he never said that. You're doing work. Okay, you do work. This is what this is.
He sort of picked people. I know, because even my dad was one of them. He picked people who did what they did the best. And Correct. He told them to do that. He told Correct. Them, you do that. You don't have to do that. Yeah.
Correct.
My dad was one of them. My mom used to attend his lectures. My dad would just go with her, be at the back seat, and then just watch the door.
Yes.
He would close the door for Gurudev.
Yes.
Because Gurudev was very punctual. He said, after that time, close the doors.
Nobody should,
Nobody should come in.
Yes.
So that was his duty.
Yes. And he was happy doing it.
He was happy doing it. And Gurudev would give him all the work in the camp time, ashram. You do that. He's fine doing that.
Yeah. This is that verse. This is that verse. Even Florida, Shailaja Nadkarni, same thing. She was very devoted. Her husband was not. And so what Gurudev said is that when the mission was formed, your husband becomes president, but you do all the work. You don't get the title. Title he gets. Give him the title, and all the work she did, the title was there, president. No, she herself has told me this. She said, this word, and this is how I work for Gurudev. And then Gurudev needed a doctor. They were both doctors. Gurudev needed a doctor in his travels in South India once. And Guruji told her husband, he said, you go. Gurudev needs somebody. He said, no, I can't leave my practice and go. Then Guruji went to the wife, Shailaja Nadkarni, and she said, Shailatai, in Marathi, he said, she was a Marathi. So he said this. She said, really? Who cares about the practice? She just left her practice. She traveled with Gurudev throughout, because later on he needed, Robin used to do that here. Robin used to travel with him. He needed medical attention, right? She said, I don't mind. I don't care. It's okay. I'm going. So this is what this is. This is this verse, that those who are working in whatever field they are good at, let them work, because that is better than not working. Don't try to push them into this knowledge, because they're not interested. Then they're going to get turned off. So when they work for some time, then maybe that interest might come, and then they'll come. So don't worry about them. Whatever work they're good at, let them do that. This is what should engage them in all actions. All actions means, like Tripti said, this is what it is. If you think this one is good at this, okay, let him do that. Let him do that. Let him do that. Let her do that. Let him do that. This is what this verse is. The reason I brought that up is because so that you also get an idea of how, Gurudev, this is how wise men function. Okay. Next, any questions so far? Everybody okay? All right. Prakrute kriyamanani gune karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudhatma kartahamiti manyate. All actions are made up of, in all cases, merely by the qualities of nature, gunas. He whose mind is deluded by egoism thinks, I am the doer. This is a very important verse. What we have to understand, the way action is happening is because of the interplay of the gunas. There are three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. And these gunas interact with each other, and they are all extremely essential for any action to take place. Without the gunas, without all three of them, no action can take place. And the example, the current present example that I am speaking and you are listening is happening because of these three gunas. So tamas, the body is tamas. So the vocal cords, without my vocal cords, could I speak? So tamas is required. Okay, the actual speaking dynamism is a result of rajas. Because if rajas was not there, if there was only tamas, okay, so only the vocal cords are there, but I have no inclination to speak, then I'm not. So rajas is required. Now, what I'm speaking, the material of my speech is coming from sattva. It is the knowledge aspect. So these three things, the knowledge of how an action is to be done, sattva, the actual doing of the action, rajas, and the material that is required. So if you take the example of cooking, first of all, you have to have the recipe, sattva. Second, you have to have the inclination to do, because yeah, the recipe is in the book, but you know, like I'm not doing anything. You have to do, you have to soak the rice or soak whatever is to be done. And the third thing is you need the range, you maybe need the mixer, you know, grinder. You need so many instruments to do that particular thing. So actions are happening because of prakriti. These three gunas are called as prakriti. So they are the ones that are doing the action. Now what is happening is our ego, I take on that responsibility that I have done the action, forgetting that it is because of the play of the gunas. Another simple example that I can give you is, say I see a flower, you know, and then I think, oh, it's in my own backyard, so I think, oh, that would be a good flower for offering to the Lord at the altar. So then I go and I pluck it, and then I offer it to the Lord. Now what is happening is, who saw the flower actually is the eyes, right? And then the mind said that, then let's take it for my altar. Then who actually plucked the flower is the hands. Is the hands, okay? And then the feet brought them out, brought that flower to the altar, and then offered it at the altar. Now these things have happened because of the play of the prakriti, play of the gunas. In between this ego, which is the jiva, which is known as chidabhasa, takes on the thing that I saw the flower. What we need to remember is the eyes were open and the flower was there. So I saw the flowers. This part is difficult to understand until there is a certain amount of purity of mind. Let me tell you, it is that detachment that has to come is not there in the initial stages, is difficult. So what happens is, what do you mean I saw? I am the eyes. See, I am the eyes, I am the mind, I am the hand, because you see there's identification with the body. So to understand this idea that the eyes saw, the hands plucked, is difficult, because that separation from the gross body has not happened. And that is where karma yoga comes in play. That's why I said karma yoga helps in detachment, disidentification with the body. When you do karma as karma yoga for a while, you will detach. So you will know, yeah, the eye saw, the hand went and plucked the flower, and then the legs went and near to the altar, and the hands offered. What did I have to do with it? But this part is extremely subtle and very difficult. Okay, because I think what do you mean I saw the flower, I plucked the flower, I did. See, like if I say I'm speaking, right? But what will help is you think, would I have been able to speak if I didn't have the vocal cords? Would I be able to speak if if I didn't come here, sit, open my Zoom, open my computer, this thing? Would I be have able to speak if I didn't have the knowledge? But this is a subtle point. This we will revisit this verse. This is not ahankara vimudhatma, the one who is extremely identified with the body. So vimudha is saying visheshena mudha, one who has done a PhD in foolishness. Mudha is foolish. Vimudha is visheshena foolish. And who is this foolish? Not an illiterate person, but one who thinks he is the body. This is an important verse for karma. We will stop here for now. We will come to this verse again.